On today's episode of Wounds, Wisdom, and the Word.
Maybe I'm confused here, but you got frogs in your bed, you got frogs in your pantry. Why do you want to spend one more night with the frogs?
Wounds, wisdom, and the word. Wounds, wisdom, and the word.
Now here are your hosts, Jamie and Doug.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wounds, Wisdom, and the Word. This is Doug Gregory, and got my Jamie's back. I started to point that way, but she's over here. Jamie had a couple weeks out. She's been sick, as we say in the South. Bless her heart. But she can now venture away from the from the domicile.
Without a leash.
We're going to spare you the details. But today we got kind of an interesting topic. Jamie's going to tell us more about it in a minute, but we're talking about being too comfortable in the mud. And there's a passage with the 10 plagues in Exodus chapter 8. I want to read this to you because sometimes when you read scripture and you come across something and you're like, do what? Why? Why is that there? Why is it that way? And you think that's really silly, but you think a little further and you think, no, that's just us. And this is one of these moments. So this is the second plague that God enacts on Pharaoh in Egypt. Exodus chapter 8, beginning verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, go into Pharaoh and say to him, thus says the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. But if you refuse to let them go, behold, I will plague all your country with frogs. Ribbit. The Nile shall swarm with frogs, and they shall come up into your house and into your bedroom and on to your bed and into the houses of your servants and your people and into your ovens and your kneading bowls. The frogs shall come up on you and your people and on all your servants. And the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, stretch out your hand with your staff over the rivers and over the canals and over the pools and make frogs come up on the land of Egypt. So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land. But the magicians did the same by their secret arts and made frogs come up on the land of Egypt. So you got frogs and more frogs.
Lots
then Pharaoh,
of frogs.
Ribbit. I thought,
Kermit.
You know what came to my mind? The old commercial, Err. Then Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron and said, hey, the preacher, and he made that joke, right? Yeah, I did. Okay, get over it. Then Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron and said, plead with the Lord to take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go to sacrifice the Lord. Moses said to Pharaoh, be pleased to command me when I am to plead for you and for your servants and for your people, that the frogs be cut off from you and your houses and left only in the Nile. And he said, tomorrow. Moses said, be it as you say, so that you may know that there's no other one like the Lord our God. Now, maybe I'm confused here, but you got frogs in your bed, you got frogs in your pantry. I mean, we can't hardly deal back here if the bedroom door is not, or the bathroom door isn't shut when we go to sleep at night. I mean, let alone frogs in the bed. And when do you want those gone? Well, I want them gone tomorrow. Why do you want to spend one more night with the frogs? That sounds really, can I say it sounds really dumb? But now you look at Pharaoh and you say, well, that's silly. Why would you do that? But yet, how many times in our life, how many times have I failed to make a change that I needed to make? Well, no, just one more day. No, I'm not ready to make a change yet. I was thinking about this and I thought, one of the things that I've struggled with a lot in my life is food. Imagine that. Eat your feelings.
Mm.
You seen the one where the person's like, when you don't smoke but you need a break, and he goes outside and he pulls the packet little Debbie's out and he's packing them, like yes.
The Christmas trees, no less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Big Deborah.
Yep.
Um,
Big Deborah.
but if I don't like my weight and I don't like my health condition, then I should just make a change. But instead, what I do is I feel bad about that. And so let me go eat some more junk because I feel bad, which will give me a temporary good feeling. But then that will also give me a sugar crash and make me feel worse, you know. So in a lot of ways, me eating worse because I don't like my health is kind of like, yeah, let me spend another night with the frogs. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the point of our podcast today is, and for this episode and the next couple episodes, we're going to talk about common reasons why people get stuck in the mud. And the mud could be anything, you know. Why? And and I get it, right? I mean, it's hard. It's not easy. It's going to take a lot of work, and you almost a lot of life situations, including mental health situations. You're like, I don't know how much effort this is going to take. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how many doctors or nurses or therapists or, what all this is going to entail. So I'm just not going to do anything. And we spend another night and
Mm-hmm.
another night and another month and another year and another lifetime with the frogs. Uh, so Jamie, when I was bringing this idea up, Jamie's like, hang on, I got you a list. It was like 2 minutes and she sent me a list and I'm like, okay, I think that's our podcast episode. So I'm going to turn it over to
Mm-hmm.
her and let her talk about this list. Some of them we're going to address today. Some of them we're going to maybe catch in future episodes.
Yeah. So when Doug said something about a list, I think he even might have called it Jamie's top 10 list of, reasons why. And I was like, oh, I got this, And the thing is, when I wrote them down, okay, I didn't put them in any particular order. I just kind of brainstormed it. And to be honest, these are a combination of not only what I see in my practice with my clients, but even what I see in my personal life with people that I know and love and have known and loved for a really long time. Um, and honestly, probably me. Very, very early on in my life. Totally see myself in several of these reasons. And when I think back on that version of me, sometimes I'm really quite amazed that I'm not that me anymore, you know? But then and Doug has talked a little bit about his own journey. He's very open about that. He's been on that himself, and I think probably he can relate. But one of the things that I ask my clients when I first meet them in intake session is, why are you here? What brings you to counseling? Right. And in fact, even on my intake, some of my intake paperwork, that's the very first question at the top. Why are you seeking counseling at this time? Right. And basically, what I'm looking for is the catalyst for change, right? Because the majority of these people, Doug, have spent years doing life, living life, feeling and experiencing the exact same thing
Right.
day after
Over,
day after day. Like they
over
have
and
been
over.
living with the frogs
Right.
over and over and over and wondering why they can't get rid of them, right?
Right.
But then something will happen. Maybe it's a health event, maybe it's another life event, maybe it's the loss of a loved one, maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's some other kind, maybe you lose your job, maybe it's you just wake up one morning and you don't really like what you see in the mirror. The the why you come to counseling, it can be important, but it's not as important as the why am I changing, right? And I'll tell you, I've seen more of the people who are committed to change than the not committed. But I will tell you what, those people who are resistant to change, man, they love sleeping with those frogs. And to be honest, sometimes it's frustrating. Okay?
Oh, you mean a counselor
Okay.
gets
Let me
frustrated
be
with their
real honest.
clients?
No. I know that was probably a no-no. But I'm not in my counseling office today, as a very wise friend told me. But and here's understand the frustration though.
Well, I was
It's
going to say
because
pause.
I can see. Yeah.
Well, and you care.
Oh, yes.
I
That's what
mean,
I was about to, yeah, like,
there's so many situations where I've been in ministry. It's like, I care more about your soul than you do. And
yes.
you're,
Yes. And look, one of the things that they told me in school, and golly, I remember it so well. It is probably one of the many things that's just on repeat in my head. And that is, if you're working harder than your client, you're working too hard. Right. And the super frustrating part for me is not that it takes time. I could care less about how long it takes. Okay. Um, I've had clients that I've seen for 6 months and they graduate and they're doing great. I've had other clients that I've been seeing for 3 years and we are still a ways away from that graduation. But it doesn't matter. There's been change, right? But what really is truly frustrating to me is that I see the potential. I see the ability within that client to do the hard things. And by the way, change is hard. Change is hard. Let me just say that a third time. Change is hard. I never try to sell it to anyone as easy because it's not. It's not. And I think most of us are creatures who are wired for comfort. It's what we seek. It's why we buy warm, fuzzy blankets. It's why we like socks and sweatpants in the wintertime and tank tops, and shorts or whatever in the summertime, right? Um, it's why we get excited when it's blue jean day at work, because we like to be comfortable. Well, that's all well and good, but being comfortable isn't always good, right? And I have this, and I'll get to my list, I promise I'm getting there, but I have this analogy that I use sometimes with clients. Um, and actually shared it with a good friend a few days ago. Um, and that is, if there is somebody that you are loving, either really like closely or even from a distance, doesn't matter which, but if you're loving that person and they are just in the middle of something real sticky and real ugly and real nasty, it's real easy to get pulled into that with them. Well, here's the problem. Okay, if you were driving down the road, um, and you happen to see this person and they have driven their car off into a really deep mud pit, like, we're talking Swamp Thing kind of territory. Shout out to all of you who know that that's a real movie, by the way. There's actually a sequel, Swamp Thing 2. Okay, anyway. I think it's called The Return of Swamp Thing, but I digress. Like this car buried axle deep in this mud, okay? And the friend, this person that you love so much, they're standing out next to the car and they're knee deep, trying to trudge their way out, but they just can't. Well, here you come driving by, just so happens in the slickest, prettiest, biggest wrecker that you can imagine. Okay. You pull over to the side of the road. Where are you going to park?
Not in the mud hole.
Well, most of us, what do what?
I said not in the mud hole.
That's right. Most of us who have some pretty good common sense, we gonna pull up next to, right? We're gonna get away from the mud. Not pull right down in it. But some people pull themselves down into the mud with this individual. Well, if you plan to help anybody, you can't be in the mud with them. The best place for you to be is on the solid ground. Because you can throw that rope, you can throw that hook, you can throw whatever that big thing is called on the back of that slick wrecker. But guess what that person has to do? They have to choose to do.
Grab it, hook it.
They got to pick up the rope. They got to hook it. And sometimes people do that, and sometimes they don't. Well, the problem is if you just drive right down in that mud hole with them without keeping yourself on solid ground, you're going to sit right there with them. And now somebody else is going to have to pull you out. You've not helped them. Okay. So, and in many circumstances, you may have just given them more to worry about, Well, that's kind of, what we're really talking about are these people who are in the mud and just for whatever reason are looking at that hook, they're looking at that rope, and they refuse to pick it up. So, the moment we've all been waiting for, the top 10 list.
Well,
okay.
One moment for you.
And I did go back, by the way.
Well, okay. you said something that I just want to key on real quick, and then we'll go to the list, I promise. But you said you can see the potential. There's a psalm about God is a God who feels indignation every day. And yes, the people that are, that want to sin against him and want to yada, yada. But I wonder how much of that indignation is felt because of, I know you could do this and you won't. I mean, Moses, well, just send somebody else. No, dude, you're the guy. I know you're the guy. You don't know you're the guy, but I know you're the guy. Anyway, go. Okay, continue on.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, well, I was just going to say, like, I see those people sitting across from me and I look at them and I'm like, you could do this. You could do this. And sometimes I am that sometimes the person across from me can hear that from me, right? Sometimes I can be a little more direct with a client and go, you know what to do. Right. You know how to handle this situation. Why aren't you doing those things? Because sometimes that is very important to talk about, right? That might be another one of those little trauma boxes that gets opened up all of a sudden that maybe that client didn't even know that it was there. Okay. But all that, so 10 list. I did go back and number these. I said it early on that I just jotted them down, but I decided that I would go back and kind of give them a little bit of a ranking. So I am going to go from bottom up. I'll explain a little bit. Some of them will need no explanation. But I feel like these are going to take us in a new direction with future episodes. Doug kind of alluded to that in the intro, and I think it might be a great way to start 26 off. Maybe there is somebody out there listening who feels stuck. And maybe they can hear maybe they hear one of these things and they go, oh my gosh, that's me. And then if we talk about it, maybe they can find some hope and healing in whatever it is that we share about that particular number. So, number 10 is an absence of natural resilience. I'm not going to go too terribly deep on this one, only because I see potential for future elaboration on this subject, right? But I will say this. Some people believe that either you have it or you don't, and that if you are one of those people who don't have it, that you're just kind of out of luck. Okay. Um, and I'm here to tell you that that's not true. First of all, it's my belief that everybody has a little sliver of this in them. Okay. Because I think this is a gift from God. I think it's a part of our creation, or what, of us as his creation. And it's about finding it more often than developing it. Okay. So, um, natural resilience, these are the people that probably everybody listening to us, there's somebody who popped in your head that, oh my gosh, they have overcome some of the most difficult circumstances that anybody can imagine. And look at them. They're thriving, they're doing life, they survived. These are the kind of the people that sometimes get movies made about them. You know,
Mhm.
but that is a really, really great example. But that's also a really big example, and it doesn't have to be that in order to be useful and helpful to to just anybody. So, um, you know, I would say in my practice, I've probably only encountered maybe one or two people that I could say this about. Um, and I don't even know, like I said, um, those are the people that, at least one of them just kind of abandoned therapy and decided that it was not for them. And so I really, couldn't tell you what their story ended up looking like because I don't know. But, you know, um ultimately they both did. I think one made a little more progress than the other. Um but and by the way, one of them was my client. One of them was a like a uh not really a client of a friend, but a together. It was like a co-op deal. It's the best way I know how to describe it. So anyway, again, more on that later. Okay. So number 9 is no foundation of growth. No foundation of growth. And what I really mean by that is these individuals have grown up without an example, right? They've not had anybody in their immediate circle or sphere of influence, you might call it, that they can look at and go, oh, okay, okay, if they can do this, I can do this. Or, man, I've watched right before my eyes this person go from this to this, right? And I think that happens for a lot of different reasons. Definitely family of origin stuff there. We've talked about that in previous episodes. And um, again, that absolutely can be overcome too. There's hidden stories that people don't often realize that they know. So, um, number 8. Oh, Oh, number 8. Rescuing others, but not yourself. Um, this this would be the person who drives up in the wrecker and this would be the person who drives up in the wrecker, never hits the brakes, and just hauls off in the middle of the mud, gets out of the truck, puts their friend in the truck, and sends them out of the mud, and they stay in it.
And then goes, why am I here?
How'd I get here? How'd I get here?
Your string of bad choices.
Absolutely. I mean, clue, but
Bless your heart.
these we're gonna say that a lot today, I have a feeling. But and to be honest, these are people who so some of these things that I talk about today, probably all of you are going to realize there are some maybe overlaps or connections, right? So there's some correlation. And this is definitely one that is related to the next one. Okay. There's actually a few that's related to the next one, but this is sometimes about earning the love or the respect or the admiration or the affirmation or the validation, all of the Asians from other people. Okay. And this is, let me put you in this wrecker and send you out so that you will love me. I need you to love me.
Codependency.
Right? Yes. Yes. Um,
Well, it's not even, I need you to love me. I need you to give me validation. And oh, by the way, whatever little blips of validation I get, still not going to be enough.
yep. Yep. Never enough. Never enough. There's a reason for that. More on that later. So, that takes us to number 7. And this one probably could have been a little higher, but I just kind of did this on a whim. And this is it's no self-worth. Okay. Um, in parenthesis, unworthy. Right. This is a person who just doesn't feel like they deserve to be better. They don't feel like they deserve to anything really.
Self-sabotage.
Yes. More often than not. Absolutely. And I think it's probably a what's the word I'm
Well,
looking for here?
every one of these that we mentioned so far are basically the result of bad programming. You showed me
Mm-hmm.
the idea of people are programmed like computers are programmed by
Yep.
what they're doing. What they saw growing up, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why generational trauma is a thing, because one was programmed to do this and does the next and does the next, and
Yep.
so
Copy and paste. Copy and paste.
yeah.
And I would say true, or I would say, Doug, that is especially true about this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, again, we'll dive deeper into that in a future episode. But if you don't believe that you're worthy of love or any of those Asians that I mentioned a minute or so ago, why would you change? Why would you do better? Why would you try to be anything more than what you are? And I will say a lot of times, maybe not always, but a lot of times, these types of like this type of behavior, they seek out others that perpetuate the cycle. Goes back to that word comfortable, which actually simply means familiar. Okay. So, uh, number 6, People pleasing. This one could be a whole episode all by itself. Okay. And understand that people pleasing, again, goes back a lot of times. It ties into the self worth, it ties into the codependency, the rescuing other people, but not myself. Right. Um, because, and I would say this one, oh, where I see this one show up the most is when I have an individual sitting in front of me who has a very unhealthy food, okay, a very unhealthy family of origin. That and a lot of times those families carry the most expectations for an individual. Okay. And these people are probably catching flack for even being in therapy. And that is if and only if they have even told their family that they're going. Doesn't happen a lot because they know what the response is going to be. But people pleasing obviously happens more than just in our families. It can happen with friends, it can happen with coworkers, it can happen, oh my goodness, bosses. Woo. Um, it can happen with, just about any interpersonal relationship that you can imagine. I think maybe I don't have a people pleasing relationship with my dog, right? I think people maybe don't have those with their pets. That's about it. Except maybe I'm wrong about that because I do walk around the house at night hunting for her toy before we go to bed because I know it makes her happy. Anyway, stupid side story. But
On the next episode.
yes, Jamie and her dog. Okay. Anyway, so again, probably a lot of people out there there may be some bells going off with that one. So we'll see how this all shakes out, but
Well, and
that could probably
people
be a whole episode.
pleasing people pleasing becomes a problem when it becomes detriment to self. Jesus, what's the greatest commandment in all the law? Love the Lord God all your heart, soul, mind, strength. And the second is like it to it, that you love your neighbor as yourself. You can't love your neighbor if you can't love yourself.
Mm-hmm. You can't love your neighbor enough to love yourself. And that's kind of what people pleasing really is, right? And the thing is, like, this is all very relative to how our relationship really is with God. You know, Jesus himself stole away for quiet time alone with God. You know, I don't know how many people out there watch the show The Chosen, but I think one of the things that show did for me was just really open my eyes to exactly how human that Jesus might have been when he was on this earth. And watching him give and give and give and heal and heal and heal. And then when these gatherings were all over, he goes to his disciples, who, by the way, are starved for his attention. But what does he do? Does he continue to give and give and give and give to them? Or does he look at them and go, not right now? I have to go be with my Father. I have to go spend time in prayer. I have to go be alone on the mountain in the garden. And like even the day of his arrest, like, he didn't want to be alone. He asked those men to come and just sit with him. But even then, he still went and had private time. So, sorry, didn't mean to get off on that. But so number 5. So now we're going to get into so the top half of this list has an enormous amount to do with an individual's feeling and perception, like feelings and perception of not only the present, but the future. Okay. So just kind of keep that in mind. So number 5 is feeling unprotected. And kind of what I'm, the definition of that is, well, if I don't know exactly what I'm facing, how can I protect myself? It's the old adage, you brought a knife to a gunfight, right? If I had known that we were going to a gunfight, what would I have done? I'd brought a gun like everybody else did, right? But I'll just say this: if I were to go and scrap with Doug, I kind of already know I probably need to have a knife in my hand. But anyway, um,
Oh, here's the cool one.
Oh yeah, you can do some stabby damage with that, but but yeah, like just kind of this idea of what am I going to be facing and how can I protect myself against it if I don't know what I'm facing, right? So just feeling very unprotected and maybe a little extra vulnerable is how you might think about that. So number 4 is uncertainty, right? And that really pertains to uncertainty of what the change looks like for that individual. Am I going to be happier? Am I not going to be happier? Am I going to find ways to still have relationships with certain people in my life? Or am I not going to have ways, right? When you think about people with maybe that's recovering from addiction, that addiction has been a part of their life and been a negative coping strategies for so very long that they're kind of struggling with, well, what the crap do I do if I don't have this thing? If I can't go reach for a beer or get a joint or pop a pill or whatever it is, flip on my computer, like, what am I going to do? Uncertainty.
Oh, when we were slaves in Egypt and we sat beside the pots and eat the leeks.
Yep.
Ain't nobody missing no leeks.
No, no. So number 3 is a lack of security. Okay. And let me say this: security is a basic human need. Okay. Our friend, Mr. Abraham Maslow, if you are familiar at all with his work, then you know that there is a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And security at the bottom, right? It's at the base of that pyramid. And his theory is that there are certain things that people need in place in order to achieve higher levels of living, basically, right? So if I do not feel safe, okay, let's say, Doug, that you are driving home. I think you mentioned being in Hoptown earlier today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that while you were driving home, you see somebody on the side of the road and you're like, you know what, they're headed into Elkton. I'll see if they need a ride. And they get in the truck with you and they're like, yeah, I'm headed that way. And while you're on the way to Elkton, you decide to try to talk to them a little bit about Jesus, try to share the gospel. It's what we're supposed to do, right? Just kind of asking questions. Well, in the process of the conversation, they tell you that there is a madman chasing them to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
In one ear, out the other, you keep talking about Jesus and the gift of salvation and all of these wonderful things. And maybe even you start talking about the Christmas gifts that's in the back end of the car that you bought for your kids up in Hoptown, right? Maybe the conversation. And this man looks at you and is like, did you not hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. He ain't heard a word you said. Why? He don't feel safe.
No.
No. And so I have seen this quite a bit in terms of what I've watched, even just my clients struggle with, and that is, what do I do without this? And keep in mind, sometimes it's a trauma response that's keeping them safe.
Well, I was about to say, like, it might actually be a real unsafety, and not that
Yep.
it's not that it's not might not be unreal, but like Charlie Daniels has got an old song called "Still in Saigon" in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a PTSD song because his mind is telling him he's not safe, even though he's physically safe. He's physically back home, but because of the trauma that he went through in the war, like every little bump is sending him over the edge.
Mm-hmm. And and PTSD, that's a thing all its own, by the way. If that is like, all of this goes out the window if a client presents with PTSD symptoms, because we got to take care of that before we even think about looking forward to change in their life,
Yeah.
right? We got to calm that brain down. Got to calm that brain down. But, you know, quick
Getting
example.
getting them to even consider working on the PTSD is a major change.
Major change. Like, that is absolute progress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so a quick example, like anger. Okay. Very, very often people are reluctant to let go of their anger toward a person or about a situation because they feel like that anger is protecting them, right? Um,
I think
I've
it's in
seen
control.
this. Yeah, yeah. It feels like that as long as I can be angry, I can be safe. I can keep myself safe. Because if I'm angry at you, I don't want to have a relationship with you, right? Um, and so that's kind of what that lack of security really pertains to. So number two, fear. Just plain and simple. Being afraid or fearful of what yourself, what your life, what your relationships look like on the other side of change. I've talked with and worked with people in the LGBT community who have told some pretty heartbreaking stories of, man, I'd like to do life differently, but if I do that, I'm gonna lose my community, right? I've talked to individuals who come from a family where I want to go to church. I want to be baptized. I want to have a relationship with God. But if I do that, my family's not going to talk to me anymore. And I don't know what that looks like. It's fear. It's scary, right? And let me tell you, that is very legitimate. And I validate that for people all the time. So that brings us to number one, um, being too comfortable in the mud, right? Title of the episode, Shoring. Um, and really what this is about is being too comfortable. I've seen people who started to change, knew that's what they wanted, felt convicted in it, and they do it for a couple of weeks, and things start to feel uncomfortable, because change is uncomfortable, by the way. Okay, just is. And they're like, nope, don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. I'll just continue sleeping with these frogs because it's easier than me trying to get them out. That's my list.
Dave Ramsey talks about, it's like a poopy diaper, it gives you a rash, it stinks, but it's warm and it's mine,
Yeah. And I know we're laughing about that, but Doug, I've seen some people hold on to some things that are worse than a poopy diaper, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, and we were talking before the episode started about, and I just kind of blurted it out, but there's a big difference between wanting it fixed and wanting to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember getting to a point in my journey where it was like, kind of felt like a Viking. Like, I'm ready to go burn the ships, and I don't care what it's going to take. Like, I can't live like this no more. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it took me a long time to get there. Like I say, I still struggle. There's still days where I want to go smash a bag of candy and will,
Mm-hmm.
smoke a pack of nerds or something,
Hit those Christmas tree cakes hard.
yeah. Well, it's like Monday night, right? We have a meal, but it's like somebody always brings the desserts, and I'm like, it's supposed to be a safe space, and like, why are you bringing the dessert up in the place where like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyway.
Because I left my willpower at home. So y'all shouldn't have brought them desserts in here. Yeah.
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 But anyway.
Well, there it is. There's my word vomiting for the day.
Jamie's top 10 reasons why people are stuck in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yep.
I think that's kind of going to be our theme for 26 going forward, at least for the start of it, is getting unstuck. Because really, that's I said it last time with the episode of Chandler, but like the whole point of this podcast is this is a format where like Jamie's got a counseling office, but by the time you actually like call and make an appointment and go sit on the couch and say, there's a lot, you stick your neck out a lot, and you really got to be committed to even step in the door. This format, like you can download on your phone, you can listen, and there's a low barrier to entry, but like not everybody wants it. And I get it. This podcast is not for everybody. But this podcast is for the people that want it but don't have the information. Right? I mean, there's a lot of time in my life when I did not have the information. And I remember, a point where when I figured some stuff out and like it was almost like grieving the loss of, for 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years I've been living this way. And it's kind of like the old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago, and the second best time is today.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can help somebody in whatever way, understand, well, maybe this is what's going on. Maybe I'm not just insane. Maybe there's this thing that, and a lot of times just, G.I. Joe said no one's half the battle. Well, it is because, if I have trauma or I have anxiety or I have, whatever it is, and not only, okay, yeah, it may be a hard road, but hey, there's a road there and people have walked down it, and hey, that road is travelable, and hey, I can get better, so bringing just awareness and giving people hope, man. That's what this is all about. That's why we spend our time doing this. And I'm excited about, we've got a bunch of equipment to try to do in-person interviews and I never knew I was going to be a video editor, but here we are killing it,
Mm-hmm. Well, and you talking about hope, like I'll kind of, my closing remark is going to be this, like when you talk about change, Doug, it ain't always about burning the ships, right? Like that's a drastic thing to do. Now, sometimes that's the thing to do, but most often, a phrase I like to use in therapy is more often than not, it's small things. It starts small.
Oh yeah.
And it starts with you.
It might start by just realizing your inner shit.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That's what that is.
Well, that's where those oars are. Like, that's what they're for.
That's why we bob and weave all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know I was floating.
I thought I just had rhythm.
Lord help us. Made me think about that Johnny Cash song. You remember the old song about the shoe shine boy?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, rhythm.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell on myself too. Hopefully, there are some people listening who are Jerry Clowers people. Okay. When I was talking earlier about driving that truck in the mud, all I could think about was that story about Marcel or Uncle Versey. Uncle Versey and all his youngins, Marcel, O'Neill, Raynell, Claude, Eugene, and Clovis in the back of his truck and them running up that house fire. Have you ever heard that one, dude?
That don't come to mind. I was thinking,
Oh my goodness.
you started talking about that, and I thought about Marcel sticking the chainsaw. Had them McCullough chainsaws hanging on the side, stuck them in there, and they gave Marcel the bar.
Yeah. What? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to send you that story about the house fire, but I had to do everything. It was everything I could do to keep from laughing about that. But
Do you remember
anyway,
the Bible thumper one?
maybe.
Where he was flying on an airplane. It wasn't Jerry, but it was like one of his whatever got the chance to fly to Knoxville to go to a ball game. And he was nervous, and he's sitting on the airplane reading his Bible.
Yeah.
You believe in that? You believe in Bible thumpers? Yes, sir. You believe Jonah was in the belly of that well? Yes, sir. What are you gonna do if you get to heaven and he ain't there? Well, I guess I'll let you ask him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love Jerry Clowers. Love Jerry Clowers.
The 100-car banana train.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, oh my gracious.
Yeah.
Doug, we're telling on ourselves.
That's all right. Love y'all. Merry Christmas.
Peace out.
Have a good day.